Welcome to the theater, where the stage is mud and snow, where armies march in circles, but the point we'll never know. A loaf becomes a tank, a piggy in disguise, and drones chase falling rubles in collapsing Russian skies. Spin the globe, pick a fight, call it destiny divine. Ignore the freezing homes while the oil fields decline. Send your sons, send your pride, send your last brigade for a flag that's fraying fast and a future that's mislaid. Across the Dnipro's waters, a goose patrols the air, intercepting pricey drones with patriotic flair. The soldiers cross in waves, though their homes are cold and bare, while their leaders toast to victories that aren't even there. Oh, behold the mighty empire, rusted rails and broken trains, fueling dreams of conquest while the farmers curse the rains. The bond market is silent, the welfare funds on ice, but propaganda shouts, it's fine, just sacrifice. Spin the globe, pick a fight, call it destiny divine. Ignore the crumbling roads while the pipelines intertwine. Send your sons, send your dreams, send the last parade for a leader's fragile ego and a legacy decayed. And on the other side, defenders stand their ground, wondering why their foe insists on being bound to lies so deep they march to die on foreign sand, while back at home their mothers mourn and markets disband. Does anyone see the irony in this theater of despair? A nation's pride reduced to bread on wheels with mold to spare. Is this a Bradley? Ellie asks as drones take aim, in a war where even pigs in costumes can play the deadly game. Does anyone see the irony in this theater of despair? A nation's pride reduced to bread on wheels with mold to spare. Is this a Bradley? Ellie asks as drones take aim, in a war where even pigs in costumes can play the deadly game. And when the curtain falls on this dark, absurd ballet, what remains are the graves and the price they had to pay. The earth will heal, the people rise, the truth will find its voice. For peace, not war, will always be the better choice.
Hello, everybody. I was muted. Anyway, so here we are. It's the day. Today's the day. So today was an oddly easy day for the work, or maybe it's just because I woke up before midnight and worked all day. I don't know, but the work's done mostly. So yeah, so here we are. So I just wanted to briefly talk about some of the news. So I think I'm not muted anymore, right? So, yeah, I'm not muted anymore. So, okay. So I just wanted to talk briefly about the news. I'm gonna start here. So, okay, so I don't know exactly what happened in Kamyansk. The Russians say that the Ukrainians took advantage of a troop rotation. Well, they say it was a rotation for the the nuclear people who go to Enhodar. So the Russians say that whenever those nuclear specialist people go to Enhodar, they have to cross here. So this is the crossing point between the Russian and Ukrainian lines. And they claim that when this happens, there is a ceasefire from both sides, and those the nuclear people go through, and then the Russians say that the Ukrainians took advantage of the ceasefire to advance. So I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they're saying. And we now have evidence of Russia hit this house right here with a drone, and they hit this house right here with a drone. And I posted video of that earlier today, so we know that Ukraine is here. It might be aggressive to say it's Ukrainian controlled. I only mark it as Ukrainian controlled because the Russians are the ones saying it's Ukrainian controlled, and so we have evidence that Ukraine is there, and the Russians are saying it is Ukrainian controlled. So it might be aggressive. It might be more accurate to say it's contested. I don't know. We'll see what happens over the next few days. But uh, yeah, earlier this week we posted a video that was um 2 hours and 15 minutes of drone interceptions. The video was created by Artem, who is the guy who does all of the drone interception research. And as part of his data collection, he collects the clips of every interception. And he thought to himself, what if I just combine all the clips into a giant video? And then he added our music to it and asked me to post it. So I posted it, and that's what that is. So that's what that video was. I hope you enjoyed it. It was every interception up till that point. That comes with a caveat. It was every interception that has a video. It was 1023 at the time. Obviously, there's been more interceptions since then. But it did not include interceptions where we only have photographs, because there are more interceptions than we have videos for interception. Anyways, so yeah, that's what's going on in Kamyanska. So I just wanted to mention that real quick. We don't actually know entirely what's going on, but that's a thing. Another thing to note is that the Russians are claiming that they advanced and captured this Dachi area right here. It's across the river from Antonivka and, near Kherson. So they're claiming that they advanced and captured this area. I haven't seen firm evidence of that, but they seem pretty intent on this being true. And honestly, when they're this aggressively with something, it often comes out to be true. So yeah, but we'll see. We need firm evidence of that. These I mean, Russia has been threatening to attack Sadova. I don't really see it happening. There's a lot of airstrikes here, but they've been doing airstrikes for basically the whole time. And there's more airstrikes today along this area here. But it's all kind of normal, to be honest. Of course, there were a lot of pretty big strikes on Kherson, of all different types of airstrikes, rocket strikes, artillery shelling. There was some artillery shelling over here. It was like basically impossible to geolocate, but it was like over here somewhere today. Anyways, so that's just kind of that. I don't really have much to say, but you have to just kind of briefly mention it. What I kind of want to talk about is what what kind of happened over here basically. We saw this really should have prepared for this, but we saw this pocket, right? This this whole kind of little mess that happened here. So at one point, why I don't know why that arrow is there, but anyway, so we at one point it looked like this, right? It looked like this, and For some reason, Ukraine did this counterattack where they retook part of this town and they recaptured this town and they knocked Russia out of the western part of this town. So this was like a counterattack. And when this counterattack happened on the third and the second, actually, I think it was the second, but when this happened, people were very confused. They're like, why are they doing this? This seems like a terrible idea because Russia is like pinching you off over here, like pinching the neck out, and you're like pushing out even further. It's like it was a bizarre move. And I don't think turned out very well. But we have to ask yourself, why did Russia have such a hard time clearing Ukraine out of this position here? And the short of it is very simple. It's a very simple reason why Russia had so much trouble capturing this, why it took such a long time, because this was a disaster for Ukraine, like a total disaster. Like it was a train wreck. Ukraine losing Dalnia was really what broke everything. This Russian attack that kind of they kind of moved down this basically like this kind of low ground. They like just kind of like trucked it across and just went do and got over here and then they eventually pushed down and started pushing out towards Danya and then just like a few days later just got their foothold in there and then just kept pushing and pushing and pushing and then they eventually captured the town. So this was a disaster, right? And why did it take so long? Because this happened in like the middle of November. Why did it take until like the end of December for all of this to collapse? And it's simple. Russia has a severe manpower problem. Russia has a manpower problem. And in this location in particular, south of Krakowa, this particular location is where they had the biggest manpower problem. So they kind of pushed towards Velika Novosilka, right? So if you think about it, there's three kind of groups that Russia has. So there's this group here, which is what they call like Donetsk South, I think, whatever. And, there's this group here, right? And then there's this group here. So so there's one group around Pokrovsk, there's one group around Krakowa, and then there's another group around Velika Novosilka. And these three groups are all separate groups. They don't really interact that much. They don't really like help each other that much. They're all kind of doing their own thing. And this middle group here has a severe manpower shortage. This group in the north has apparently tons of manpower, but this middle group has a manpower shortage, and they just didn't have the infantry to push Ukraine out very quickly. Now, whether it would have been smarter for Ukraine to withdraw on their own, another story. Probably should have withdrawn earlier. I don't know why they always take so long to withdraw from situations like this. The total train wreck for Ukraine. But they did well. So now the thing is that the Russians had a plan, and the plan has been obvious for a very long time. At least 6 months, their plan's been obvious to me anyway. So their plan was to go to Velika Novosilka, capture it. They wanted to go to Krakowa and capture that. So they wanted to get both of these locations and continue pushing west, especially from Velika Novosilka. They wanted to keep pushing up like this, and they wanted to get out here, okay? They wanted to just push this a wedge, westward like this. And then once that happened, they wanted to kind of put pressure on Pokrovsk. They don't actually want to attack Pokrovsk. They kind of want, like, ideally, they kind of want to go like this around Pokrovsk. But if that doesn't work, then they would go like this around Pokrovsk. One or the other, maybe both. But ideally, they would want to go west around Pokrovsk. And in doing so, like, if you push west here, go around Pokrovsk, And if you're pushing this wedge up here like this, then you know there's this empty period area in the middle where all three forces will join up, and you'll get this huge wedge right here where all three of these forces are basically working together. So I think that was their goal. But the problem is that this group here got to Velika Novoselka really quickly and then got stuck, and they haven't been able to do anything, right? And this group has like no infantry. This group has no infantry, and they're having amazing trouble doing things that honestly they shouldn't be having trouble doing. These they should have captured Krakowa a while ago, and then closing this pocket should have happened really fast. And but they're kind of getting it together now, but they're weeks behind. They're weeks behind. These guys they're doing nothing. Like they're trying. Like Velika Novoselka is in a terrible position. I don't it's awful. It's a really bad situation. It's all going to collapse probably reasonably soon. But it's going really slowly. So what happened is that this northern group had to start acting prematurely. So this northern group wanted to start flanking Pokrovsk once this southern wedge was formed, so that they could, you know, kind of work with that southern wedge to like push it north and wrap around Pokrovsk to the west. So that was kind of their goal. And but this southern wedge never happened. So now they're just kind of like YOLOing it on their own. They're saying, okay, we'll do it. So they're pushing west right now, and they have been pushing west. You know, they kind of started around here basically, and they've just been going west, 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 and a little bit north, but mostly west. And you're going to see them kind of first they have to like expand their if they expand outwards, so to the south basically. So they have to capture you know, this town here and this town there, and they're going to expand this wedge south to kind of protect their flanks. And then once it's expanded south, they're going to go westward more, and then once they move west enough, they're going to move south again to continue expanding so that they have, you know, solid flanks. And that's kind of their goal here. And Russia has a tremendous amount of forces here. It's basically, I think, a full division plus like 2 regiments or something like that. So that's kind of what's going on here. So this attack near Pokrovsk is premature from the perspective of Russia, but this kind of northern group here just kind of got sick of their two kind of younger brothers kind of messing it up in the south. I guess they just were like, okay, fine, we'll do it then. So that's kind of what's going on here. Um, so this kind of goes against the narrative that you most commonly hear in the media, that Ukraine is the one short on an infantry and that the Russians have too many infantry, basically. But there was a description. Okay, so there was a description of the situation that I read that I found interesting. And he basically said that the Russian problem is not the infantry themselves, because these attacks don't actually require that much infantry, because you do these attacks like, you know, you push forward like 10 guys and push forward like 10 guys, and everywhere you're moving you move like 5 or 10 guys, and if you add it all up it's not that many guys. But the problem is that Russia never has the infantry where they need them when they need them. So they're constantly like shuffling. They're constantly shuffling. Like first we're gonna attack here, and then we're gonna attack here, and then we're gonna attack there, and then we're gonna attack here. So they're like constantly like changing their goals, and they never have the guys in the exact location they need when they need them. So it's hard for them to exploit any issue that they, well, any advantage that they get. Okay, so that's the Russian disadvantage here. It's not a lack of infantry, it's a lack of infantry being where you need them when you need them. And they say that the Ukrainian weakness in this location or in this area, or really just in general, honestly. The Ukrainian weakness is their leadership not knowing when to withdraw and where to make a stand. So the Ukrainians are really bad at picking which places to defend in both directions. They defend some places too much, and they defend other places not enough. And it seems that Ukraine just makes too many mistakes doing this. There's a certain number of mistakes that are obviously going to be made because nobody is perfect, but Ukraine makes too many mistakes. So that's kind of the baseline analysis that you see coming from, I think, the smarter Russian people, the smarter Russian analysts, is that the Russian problem is not having the infantry where they need them, and the Ukrainian problem is their command not knowing where to defend and when to defend it. So those are the two issues that each side is kind of trying to tackle here. So if we go back to Velika Novosilka, what's going to happen, I imagine, is that there's going to be a pivot on the attack here. Okay? And there's two ways it can pivot. And I'll describe to you what I mean by a pivot. Okay, so first, okay, so I think the most likely is that this western flank is either going to move further east or further north, one or the other. They're going to do some sort of breakthrough where they move substantially, either towards Vremivka, like moving across this field to get to Vremivka, or shooting north, like up here, one or the other. And in doing so, they're going to force Ukraine to redeploy their forces to defend this breakthrough, whichever direction it goes. And then, once that happens, Russia will immediately begin attacking from the east. And they'll either push west from here, from Novny Komar. They'll either push west from here or south from here, or they'll push just west into Velika Novosilka. It depends on exactly the situation. But okay, so I think most likely they'll start with the west, but it could also do the opposite. It could start with the east, and then when the east gets a breakthrough, go west. But either way, you're going to see them go one side, and then as soon as you get success, immediately go to the other side. And in doing so, you make it so that Ukraine can't defend both sides and the whole area will collapse. So I think that's basically what's going to happen here eventually. And by eventually, um, the the Russians have a timeline that they don't plan on capturing Velika Novosilka in this timeline. Um, but they plan on doing this maneuver before the 1st of January. And in doing so to break the defense of Velika Novosilka. But the actual defense of the town could take weeks for Russia to capture. It might not be until February or March or something until they actually capture it. But this maneuver, the Russians expect to do by the end of this month. And keep in mind that there's only like a week and a half left. So I don't know if that timeline is realistic, but that's what the Russians are expecting. Okay, so this is all kind of what I wanted to talk about in the south. I don't really have anything to say about Pokrovsk. It's all kind of lumped into everything I just said. Toretsk is kind of a train wreck. Toretsk is kind of a train wreck. So I don't know. The situation in Toretsk is worse than Ukraine is letting on, because Ukraine is saying like it's basically in their control and everything is fine, and that's not true. It's not in their control and nothing is fine. But at the same time, I'm not sure. I don't think Russia actually wants to capture Toretsk yet. I feel like if they wanted to, they could, because we have Russians. I'll just I'll just what if I? Oh boy! Oh god! What have I done? What if I limit to the last few weeks? Okay, that's better. Okay, so just this is okay. What if I limit it to the past even less time than that? Okay, okay. I think this shows us what we want to see. So if you see, the Russians are they're kind of getting into um this this kind of residential area to kind of to the north central-ish part of this, well, the northern part of the city. So they've gotten here. They've been pushing to this residential area over here. They're pushing into this residential area up there, which is really bad, by the way, really, really bad. So they've been pushing all of these this whole area, this kind of like circumference here, right? And this is just it's very not good. I don't know how else to say it. It's very not good. Simultaneously, they've been pushing this kind of southern portion down here. This shelling I didn't know what to make of, so I just kind of ignored it. But yeah, the Russians are just kind of taking Touretsk at this point. Like if you look at the edges of this the known Russian locations, that I don't know if Russia actually controls this, but they were there. So if you look at that compared to like the edge of the city, it's like a few blocks. Like there's like a few blocks under Ukrainian control, and they're all these residential streets. Like really difficult to defend residential areas because you imagine one bomb, like if like one airstrike like right here could take out like a whole block, because these are just houses. They're not buildings, And I just want to point out that Touretsk ends like here. Not that it really matters, but like right there, Touretsk ends. So there's really not that much of Touretsk that Ukraine controls at this point. It's getting worrying, genuinely worrying. And thank you, John Zastro, for donating memberships. And thank you to Lord Flashheart for also donating memberships. Lots of little green eyeballs all over the place now. But yeah, this whole Tourette's situation is awfully sad. Speaking of sad, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit because there's something also sad. Um, Divrichna. Yesterday we had these geos. I forgot to put the images in, but anyway, there's these geos that I haven't put the images in yet because I was lazy. But they're in Divrichna. Okay, really bad, really bad. And Divrichna, you might know, is this is where Russia has crossed the Oskil River. They crossed the Oskil River. They initially set a foothold in kind of these forests on the opposite side of the river. And now they're pushing up into Divrichna, and they are now wandering the streets of the town. And Ukraine is having to fight on their side of the Oskil River in a town that Russia is getting really close to capturing, to be honest, which is unhappy. Very sad. Is the river frozen? No, of course not. It's of course there's this thing called global warming. No, it's not frozen, dude. They just crossed it on boats. They just crossed it on boats. I mean, to be honest, the river is not very wide, but they just got in a boat and went boop boop boop, and they're on the other side. It's not that hard to cross. Hey, thank you, Ozzy Sue. I'm glad you like my analysis, Ozzy Sue. Thank you. But anyways, so that's the other sad news. So, as for less sad news, I mean, it's not happy, but it's not as sad. Um, we see these Russian attacks across Chasiv Yar, and they're all in roughly the places where we expect them to be, as opposed to pushing Ukraine back. So that is a happiness, right? All of these are in roughly where we expected. So that's good. So Chasiv Yar is mostly under control. Okay, so some news from the Siversk area. And I think this might be the last news I really have to talk about. Oh, well, there is Kursk. But okay, so some news from the Siversk area. Not Ukraine. Russia changed their commander in this area. They changed their commander. They kicked out the old commander, who was basically a Soviet dinosaur type guy, and they replaced him with someone who is slightly different, although he appears to also be a Soviet dinosaur type guy. But as a result of the change in command, there was a several week long lull where the Russians didn't really do much while the new commander was kind of taking charge and, you know, doing his assessment of what forces he has. And it appears that this new commander has a strategy that he basically wants to capture Bilohorivka. Okay? And in doing so, he does not want to attack Bilohorivka head on, but apparently he wants to flank both sides, the north and the south, simultaneously. Classic Russian, simultaneously north and south. And so far, they've done some attacks in the south where they're trying to bypass this quarry. The problem is that Ukraine is defending the stuff or south of the quarry. So anyway, so they're trying to bypass the quarry. They're trying to basically wrap around and get like over here. That's like kind of their goal. And their other goal is to go through the north. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that means because in the past, we've seen Russia try to attack this way. This is a terrible place to attack. You can't really see it on this map. But you see, this here is a hill. That's a hill. You can see that it's obviously a hill. And you see that over here is a hill, right? So this is a hill. This is a hill. It's a little bit harder to see is that like these trees are kind of near the crest of a hill, and this is like steep, right? So this is a hill going up in that direction, and this is a hill going up in this direction. So this is like a really steep valley, very steep valley. Okay, so and then this is another hill, and then it goes back down, and here's another valley, and then this is another hill. So it's like hill, 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 valley, valley. Okay, and the other thing is that this road here is in another valley. So if you are taking this road, you're traveling down a valley where everything is shooting down on you from every direction, basically. And even over here, I believe, it is higher. So everything is shooting down on you, where you have to drive down this road in the open with very little cover, all the way down. And then at the bottom, there's a hill you have to go up. So it's a very difficult place to attack. The Russians tried it, and they took like really horrible casualties. So I don't know if this is what they mean by north, or if they mean like wrapping this way and like capturing this forest and attacking like Raharivka, which if you remember back, this is where the Russians tried to do their river crossing, and it was a total train wreck. It was one of the biggest Russian disasters of the war. So they might try to do that again. Who knows? So anyway, so he apparently wants to go to the south and to the north, and the north is terrible, and the south is more likely to work, but we'll see what happens. So far, none of his attacks have been successful. A new commander doesn't appear to be that different from the old commander, which is kind of good news for Ukraine. Okay, and now around the Kupiansk area, all that really matters, all that really matters right now is that Ukraine did a counterattack south where they retook like right here, and Russia said, okay, you counterattacked here, so we will keep attacking here. So there's just kind of like moving south. So like yeah. So that's kind of that. So Ukraine moves south, Russia moves south, everybody's going south. South's the direction to move. And going on to Kursk. Okay, so Kursk, um, apparently Koreans, although not necessarily, maybe Russians, maybe both, they've done these large scale assaults where they've kind of moved from here, they moved from here to here. So they've gone boop 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 boop, boop running, literally just running across the fields. Vehicles? Nah, we don't need vehicles. Nobody needs vehicles around here. We're just gonna like casually walk across the giant field while getting hit by everything and taking enormous casualties. But we'll just casually walk la di la di la di la di la all the way over here. So they're now over here taking huge casualties, right? And so yeah, if we go back in time a little bit, you can kind of see where these attacks happen, right? So um so they this is kind of funny. Yeah. So these are the sorts of attacks we're talking about. Just casually walking, doop doop doop, walking across the field. Why not? That's how our forefathers used to do it. That's all we need. Okay, so the bigger threat that I think right now is this push from the west, which is concerning. Or from the east, I mean. This push west from the east is concerning, where they've been pushing, um, getting closer and closer to Sucha from the south, the southern flank of Sucha. Now, the reason this is concerning and this kind of northern attack isn't as concerning is that this northern attack, Ukraine can kind of withdraw slowly, okay? But this southern attack is flanking to cut off the only major road to Sucha, which is not good, obviously. It's very bad, obviously. So this kind of southern attack is a much bigger threat. Um, in Darino, it appeared that Ukraine was stubborn in their attempt to hold this town. Um, we don't know for sure, but it appeared maybe Ukraine was doing counterattacks, but they all failed, basically. That's all you really need to know, is that Russia kind of controls it. And now Russia is trying to squeeze towards the this road south of Sucha, and they're trying to squeeze Ukraine out. These kind of northern forces are kind of applying pressure to encourage Ukraine to move south, while these forces are trying to cut off the only roads in and out to basically, if these get close enough together and if they make a small enough neck, Ukraine will just have to withdraw everything, and that's kind of the Russian strategy at this point. It's just force Ukraine to withdraw. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. Can they hold on to Kursk through 2025? Through 2025? No, not like this. Not like this. Not like this. If Ukraine wanted to hold Kursk, what would have to happen for them to successfully hold Kursk, and I don't think this is realistic, but what would have to happen is that Ukraine would have to survive this attack and then launch counterattacks to take back land and to widen this neck. They have to widen the whole front. Like you'd have to make the front like this. Um, they tried doing that. They tried capturing Glushkovo, and that was a total disaster. They basically lost a brigade doing that. more or less lost a brigade, maybe even two brigades doing that. It was really bad. They tried widening going to the east, and they basically lost a brigade doing that. So, uh, trying to expand these flanks, they've basically lost two, maybe three brigades. Very bad. It was really bad casualties. People are really underplaying it. So, um, so yeah, they would have to do some sort of attack, some sort of counterattack, some sort of something to widen this. Ukraine really had to capture Koronevo, and really, in order to make this sustainable, they had to capture Koronevo, they had to capture Glushkovo, and control this river here, and use that river as their flank, and then they would only have to control over here, and it would have been easier for them to do all that. And a lot of this ground that Ukraine lost all came as a direct result of not holding Koronevo. So yeah, I do not think they can hold this through 2025 unless there's a dramatic change. Like Ukraine would have to, like, maybe if they launched like another offensive like over here and captured like this whole big chunk, and then kind of use that to unite into one big like front like this or something, like maybe that could hold. But this current situation absolutely cannot. Yeah. Uh yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to talk about today, because I only had like 30 minutes and I've been here for like 40. So I should go. I should go. Thank you for everyone who came and listened. I hope you found it interesting. And I'm gonna go now. Goodbye. I'll play a song. I'll play a song. Um, what happens?